Some albums just dominate everything, that they take over an entire year, changing the direction of music forever. In this video, we'll look at 8 albums that defined a year. 21 by Adele. When Adele released 21 in early 2011, no one could have predicted it would dominate the global music landscape. Still obsessed with EDM and dance pop, but the album became a seismic event, a slow-burning success that reshaped the music industry. With hits like Rolling in the Deep, Someone Like You, and Set Fire to the Rain, Adele became a breakthrough star. Commercially, 21 became one of the best-selling albums of all time. It spent 24 non-consecutive weeks on #1 on the Billboard 200, the most weeks at the top of the charts by a female artist to this day. In the US alone, it sold over 17 million copies, while global sales are estimated over 31 million copies. That made it the biggest album of the 2010s. In a digital world, Adele made people buy albums again. It also won 6 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year, cementing Adele's icon status. In a time dominated by flashy visuals and high-energy production, Adele stood alone. No gimmicks, no choreography, just pure vocals. Her massive success proved that emotional songwriting could still rule the charts. After 21, labels began taking ballads seriously again. And when you think of 2011, you can only think of one album. Confessions by Usher. In 2004, Usher did something rare. He dropped an album so culturally impactful that it became the blueprint for modern R&B. The album dominated everything. It was a perfectly timed masterpiece, led by hits like Yeah, Burn, and Confessions Part 2. The album combined southern crunk, smooth R&B, and pop hooks to create a flawless project. The numbers were insane. Confessions sold 1.1 million copies in its first week, the highest debut for an R&B artist in history. It went on to sell over 20 million copies worldwide, including more than 10 million in the US alone, achieving Diamond certification. Yeah spent 12 consecutive weeks on #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was followed by 2 more #1 singles. Usher became the first solo artist to have 4 #1 hits from one album. More than the stats, Confessions solidified R&B as a mainstream commercial force in the 2000s. 2004 was a year dominated by hip-hop and R&B, with every song that went #1 in that year being from those genres. Usher absolutely dominated the year, breaking a record, spending 28 weeks of the calendar year at the top of the Billboard Hot 100. Nearly 2 decades later, Confessions still feels like the last time an R&B album fully ruled every single corner of pop culture. The Emancipation of Mimi by Mariah Carey. After a few commercially lukewarm years, many doubted if Mariah Carey could ever reclaim her superstar status. But then the Emancipation of Mimi arrived in 2005 and proved all the doubters wrong. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a rebirth. The album was released in April and quickly became a dominant force throughout the year, debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200. With 404,000 copies sold in its first week. By the end of 2005, it was the best-selling album in the US, with over 4.9 million units sold in the year alone. Globally, it moved more than 10 million copies, re-establishing Mariah as a pop and R&B powerhouse. The album's lead single, We Belong Together, was a cultural moment in itself. It spent 14 consecutive weeks on #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was named Billboard's Song of the Decade for the 2000s. The song helped her tie Elvis Presley's record for the most US #1 singles by a solo artist at the time. Other hits like Shake It Off and Don't Forget About Us followed, with the latter becoming her 17th #1 hit, putting her just behind the Beatles. Mariah wasn't just on the charts, she owned them, but the influence of the Emancipation of Mimi extended beyond the numbers. It marked the moment where Mariah solidified her status as an all-time legend. Critics even called it her best work since the 90s. The album was nominated for 10 Grammy Awards, winning 3, and in many ways, it redefined what a comeback could look like and made 2005 the year of Mariah Carey. Thriller by Michael Jackson. Though Thriller was released in late November 1982, its true explosion happened in 1983, and it completely transformed the music industry. By early 1983, the album was topping charts around the world. In the US, it hit #1 on the Billboard 200 and stayed there for an astonishing 37 non-consecutive weeks. The album didn't just define 1983, it defined an era. With over 70 million copies sold globally, it remains the best-selling album of all time. What really made 1983 Thriller's year was the groundbreaking release of its singles and music videos. Billie Jean and Beat It dominated radio and MTV, with Thriller becoming the first album to produce 7 top 10 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. Michael's live performance of Billie Jean on the Motown 25 special, when he debuted the Moonwalk, aired in May 1983, and instantly became one of the most iconic TV moments in music history. Sales surged, and suddenly, everyone was trying to dance like Michael and dress like Michael. Culturally, Thriller broke racial barriers, with MJ becoming the first black artist to get heavy rotation on MTV, forcing the network to integrate its lineup. The music video for the title track Thriller dropped later that year and revolutionized how music videos were made, turning them into mini movies. From fashion to dance to music video aesthetics, Michael Jackson's Thriller was 1983, and its legacy continues to ripple across the music industry to this day. Teenage Dream by Katy Perry. In 2010, Teenage Dream became a pop culture phenomenon. Katy Perry tapped into the colorful, candy-coated fantasies of the decade, with a collection of pop songs so infectious that they dominated airwaves globally. The album spawned an incredible 5 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, with California Girls, Teenage Dream, Firework, E.T., and Last Friday Night all hitting #1, making Katy the first female artist to do that. This was more than chart domination, it was historic. The album was a commercial juggernaut, debuting on #1 on the Billboard 200, and has since been certified diamond by the RIAA in the US. Globally, it sold over 29 million album equivalent units, becoming an era-defining project. Beyond numbers, Teenage Dream defined the tone and aesthetic of early 2010s pop. The album's visuals, bubblegum pink wigs and candy theme, influenced music videos, fashion, and even makeup trends. Katy Perry didn't just drop hits, she crafted a pop world that millions bought into. With Teenage Dream, 2010 was the year of Katy Perry. When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go by Billie Eilish. By 2019, the musical landscape was starting to look different, with whispery vocals, trap beats, and eerie soundscapes taking over. And the one artist that was responsible for that was Billie Eilish. Her debut studio album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go, redefined what a pop album could sound like and what a teen pop star could look like. Released in March 2019, the album debuted on #1 on the Billboard 200, making Billie the first artist born in the 2000s to top the chart. It eventually became the best performing album globally that year, with over 12 billion streams on Spotify alone. When We All Fall Asleep didn't just perform well, it dominated. The lead single Bad Guy became an international hit, dethroning Lil Nas X's Old Town Road after a record-breaking 19-week reign, and earning Billie her first Billboard #1. At the 2020 Grammy Awards, she made history by becoming the youngest artist ever to win the Big Four awards in the same year: Album of the Year, Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best New Artist, all thanks to the project. Culturally, Billie's dark, genre-blurring sound flipped industry expectations upside down, and it resonated deeply with Gen Z. Billie didn't just reflect the era's mood, she defined it. Sour by Olivia Rodrigo. Few debut albums have landed with the kind of impact that Olivia Rodrigo's Sour did in 2021. Released on May 21, the album quickly became a generational anthem for heartbreak and teenage angst. It debuted on #1 on the Billboard 200, with 295,000 units sold, the biggest debut for a female artist that year. The album spent a total of 5 weeks on #1, critically acclaimed for its mix of pop, alt-rock, and stripped-back ballads. Sour proved that Olivia wasn't just a one-hit wonder, following her record-breaking debut single Driver's License. Commercially, the album was a juggernaut on streaming platforms. It was the most streamed album globally on Spotify in 2021, beating out veterans like Taylor Swift and Drake. It is now sitting on 14 billion total streams, making it the 4th most streamed album of all time. Because of the album, Olivia became the first female artist to ever chart 11 songs from a debut album on the Billboard Hot 100 simultaneously. Her music videos drew millions of views, cementing her as both a streaming and visual powerhouse. Beyond numbers, Sour defined 2010's musical and emotional mood, coming at a time where Gen Z was reeling from the pandemic lockdowns and collective burnout. Olivia's sound struck a chord. She revived the diary pop genre in a bold punk-influenced way. Her rise also marked a turning point in how TikTok could elevate new artists, with every track from the album trending on the app at some point. Sour wasn't just a successful debut, it is the album you think of when you think about 2021. 1989 by Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's 1989, released on October 27, 2014, wasn't just an album, it was a cultural reset. Abandoning her country roots, Taylor fully embraced synth-pop, marking one of the boldest stylistic shifts in modern pop history. The risk paid off. The album debuted on number 1 on the Billboard 200, with 1.2 million copies sold in its first week. It went on to become the best-selling album of 2014 in the US, and won Album of the Year at the 2016 Grammy Awards, making Taylor the first woman to win the honor twice. With single after single, 1989 dominated the charts. Shake It Off debuted on number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, followed by Blank Space, which also reached the top. In fact, Blank Space replaced Shake It Off at the top, making Taylor the first woman in Hot 100 history to succeed herself on number 1. Style, Bad Blood, and Wildest Dreams continued the streak of hits. The album spawned 7 singles, 5 of which reached the top 10. Its glossy visuals, massive tour, and the iconic Squad era turned Taylor Swift into a megastar. 1989 wasn't just a soundtrack to 2014, it was a blueprint for pop stardom in the modern age. It helped usher in a wave of 80s inspired synth-pop and changed pop music forever. Which albums that defined a year did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.